Hello guys, welcome to section 2 of biodiversity chapter. This is biodiversity at risk. These are all of the things we can do. We understand in this chapter how the animals are becoming extinct, what we can do about it. Okay, biodiversity at risk. The extinction of many species in a relatively short period of time is called a mass extinction. You guys have heard these words before. Mass extinction. All right, it happened with the dinosaurs. Giant comet hit the planet, and then it blocked out the sun, and then there was diseases and stuff, and the dinosaurs became extinct. That's a mass extinction. There's been about 5 or 6 of them. I'm going to show you on a slide in a minute. About 5 or 6 different mass extinctions that have happened over the course of the Earth. Several of them, each one caused by a global change in climate somehow or some way. And then it takes millions of years for biodiversity to come back. Rebound means come back, like in basketball. Rebound after a mass extinction. It takes millions of years for the Earth to recover. So we have a graph right here that shows some of the major extinctions on Earth. There were 5 major extinctions. And it takes millions of years for the Earth to rebound, especially you can see it right here. See how low it dipped? And then it took a while to build. All right, but if you look at the overall graph, biodiversity has been steadily rising over the planet Earth over all time. Now, this is long periods of time, long, long, long. These are millions of years. This is 500 million years ago, 400 million years ago, 300 million years ago. So this is a huge amount of time on this graph. And so if you look, when we have a mass extinction right here, it takes millions of years to rebound. Okay. And this one, see, this one here, the entire arch fell down with this one here about 250 million years ago. This was a huge, huge extinction. And then another one followed shortly after that, and it took a long, long time for the Earth to rebuild where it was, and now it's gone up higher. And if we go here, this one now, we'll see another green arrow here because of the extinctions humans are causing. Scientists are warning that we are in the midst of another mass extinction. Like I said, humans are causing it. The rate of extinctions is estimated to have increased by a multiple of 50 since 1800, and 1800 is about the amount of time humans really got damaging. That's when the Industrial Revolution started. That's when we started burning coal and changing the environment. So since about 1800, with up to 25% of all species on Earth becoming extinct between 1800 and 2100. Okay, so they're all 25%, 1/4 of all animals on Earth are extinct or are becoming extinct between 1800 and 2100. So by the time we hit the next century mark, we're going to lose, we will have lost 1/4 of all animals on Earth. The current mass extinction is different from those in the past because humans are the primary cause of the extinctions here in this case. Before it was just environment, asteroids, like I said, environments, massive plagues. We don't even know what all of it was because some of it happened with such a long time ago that was very little fossil evidence. But what we have now, we know the primary cause. So the species that are most prone to extinction, prone means likely, most prone to extinction, large populations that adapt easily are not very likely to become extinct. If you have a big population and it can adapt to changes, you're pretty much okay. But small populations with limited areas, meaning they live in just one particular area and that's all the only place they can live in, those guys can become very easily extinct. Species that are especially at risk of extinction are those that migrate, because they can bring diseases from one place to another. If they need large or special habitats, and those that can be exploited by humans, like for the pet trade. Okay, those especially chameleons and other sorts of lizards are really, really in danger from exploitation by humans for the pet trade. Again, some more about the species most prone to extinction. An endangered species. is one that has been identified to be in danger of extinction throughout all or a significant part of its range. That means where it lives naturally, they're going to be gone. And therefore, we've put them under protection by regulations or conservation measures. So once we've labeled them as endangered, we start doing a bunch of stuff to try to protect them, like all of the stuff we've done in the zoos with the pandas. A threatened species, that's the next level up, is a species identified to likely become endangered in the foreseeable future. That means very soon, if things don't change really remarkably, if we don't change things big, then this one's going to be these threatened species will be endangered as well. So how is it, I just told you 3 or 4 times, it's our fault. How is it that the humans are causing these extinctions? Okay, over the past 2 centuries, like I said, this started in the 1800s with the Industrial Revolution. Over the past 2 centuries, human population growth has accelerated, so has the rate of mass extinctions. So not only are we just doing stuff, we're taking over all the space. So the major causes of extinction today are destructions of habitat. Like I said, we're taking over all the space. The introduction of non-native species, like we've brought our pet cats to Australia. Cats are not native to Australia. Cats have killed almost everything that is native to Australia. So introduction of non-native species, pollution, and over-harvesting of species, especially with a lot of the fish species are becoming extinct. We all, normally when we're thinking of animals, we almost always think in terms of mammals. But we've got to remember there's more than just mammals out there. There's reptiles, amphibians, fish, birds, okay? And then you've also got to include the plants and stuff, okay? Because plants are also becoming extinct, lots of plants. And because plants are the basis of the biomes, the plants are the basis of the ecosystems. If something happens to the plants, the whole ecosystem gets messed up. So you've got to remember plants when we're doing our thinking on this stuff. So these are the number of organisms that are known to be threatened. Remember, that's the second level. Number that are extinct. Well, this is threatened in all categories. So that's threatened or endangered or anything else. These are the ones that are any kind of trouble. Okay, and these are the ones that have gone extinct since the 1800s. And these are this number that may become extinct. You have several questions in your notes to use this table. All right, so with mammals, again, like I said, we almost always think of mammals. There are over 1,000 different species at risk. There have 87 different species have become extinct just since 1800. All right, and 26 more are likely to be added to this list over here. All right, and birds, like I said, you've got to consider all of them. Reptiles, let's say 22 different species of reptiles have become extinct. 5 species of amphibians have become extinct. Let's see, remember, don't forget the fish, insects, other crustaceans, mammals, and then plants. Look at these plants. Like I said, plants down here at the bottom. They are the basis for all the ecosystems. 30,000 different kinds of plants are in trouble. 400 species have become extinct just in the last 200 years, and that is 100% our fault. 400 species of plants. And if you think of the picture of think of a picture of a jungle with all the different types of plants that there could be inside of there. We have caused 400 different species to become extinct since 1800, and with plants being the basis of all the ecosystem, that is creating big damage for everybody else, all the other organisms. Okay, so let's talk about habitat destruction and fragmentation. That's one of the main causes of human causes of extinction of the animals, because what we're doing now is we're taking over all of their space. We're taking all of their hunting areas. We're taking all of their, like some animals have like particular mating characteristics, mating habits that they have to do, the migration patterns, and just simply our highways breaking their habitats in pieces, and they get killed trying to cross the street. So as human populations grow, which like I said, we are growing fast, humans use more land to build homes and harvest resources. In the process, we destroy and fragment the habitats. Fragment means, let's say there's this huge piece of land here that this cougar or this panther needs to hunt in. We build a highway in the middle of their territory, and we fragmented their habitat, and all of a sudden we've cut their hunting grounds in half. Okay, so it's estimated that habitat loss has caused almost 75% of the extinctions that are now occurring. So habitat loss is the main thing that we're doing wrong that's causing the extinction, habitat loss. Okay. And then there's one of these cougars I was just talking about. We're going to use the cougars as an example. Cougars, pumas, mountain lions. They're all the same thing. I don't know which word I'm going to use. Cougars, pumas, mountain lions. It's all the same thing. All right. And panthers. Okay. Is there another click? Yeah, okay. So, for example, cougars, including the Florida panther, require an expansive amount of forest and large amounts of prey. Okay, they're a big cat. They need a large hunting territory. All right, but today, much of the cougar's habitat has been destroyed or broken up by roads, canals, and fences. As humans go through, we're breaking up their habitat. And so at this point, there are, and I just checked this when I made your notes for you just the other day. This is the correct number. There are fewer than 120 or 130 Florida panthers that are the only remaining wild cougar population east of the Mississippi River. So think of the United States. East of the Mississippi, there are only about 120 or 130 Florida panthers left. The panther, cougar, puma, it's all the same animal. Okay, there are less than 120 or 130. All right, so this is where they used to live in the 1500s. All right, when Columbus came, when the colonials were coming. Okay, so this is where the cougars used to live. This is where they live now, and this is it. Okay, this is the only place they have left. All right, because all the rest of this has been destroyed or broken up by farms, highways, canals, all sorts of things have broken up their hunting ground, and so this is all they have left. There's only 120 or 130 of them left, so they are very much in danger of extinction. Now, one of the other reasons we said a lot of the animals are becoming extinct is because we've brought in invasive exotic species. Okay, we want to bring, when we go to a new place, we want to bring our pets, and sometimes they don't belong there. Okay, one of the main problems we have, this is a python. I couldn't remember if it was a boa or a python. I'm pretty sure it's a python. When we bring them in for the pet trades, people have these snakes, okay, especially in Florida. Well, they do it all over the place, but the pythons love Florida. They are not native to Florida at all. Okay, they are not native to Florida. They're native to India. But let's say you buy a snake for a pet. Okay, the snake gets big, and we're just going to use the example of this guy in high school. Okay, this guy in high school, he bought a snake. He's going to be the coolest dude in the world. Okay, he keeps his snake for a pet. He loves his snake. The snake gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The dude goes through college, and then he's married, and he has a kid, and all of a sudden, the snake is big enough to eat his baby. So the wife goes, "You are getting rid of this snake," and he turns it loose. He has to, because the snake could eat his baby. All right, he turns it loose in the wild. Those snakes love Florida. They do it all. They've released snakes everywhere, but they don't survive anywhere pretty much except Florida. They have taken over the Florida Everglades. Okay, remember we talked about keystone species. Alligators are a keystone species. The pythons can eat alligators. Okay, they eat them when they're young. If it's a full-grown alligator, it's probably going to be okay. But these pythons can eat enough of the baby alligators to cause some serious damage. The population is breaking down. So an exotic species is any species that is not native to a particular region. Okay, the familiar organisms like cats and rats are also considered to be exotic when they're brought to regions where they never lived before. Like I said, in Australia, cats are an invasive species. People moved to Australia, they brought their cats with them. Cats have killed almost every reptile in Australia. Think about Australia. You know, the Australian animals are such a special set of animals, like the marsupials. They don't exist anywhere but Australia. A lot of the reptiles don't exist anywhere except Australia, like the dragons. The dragons. We have a dragon, but it's not a dragon. Anyway, they exist only in Australia, and the cats are eating them all up. Cats are great hunters. You turn a cat loose, and they can hunt all over the place. And so in Australia, they're killing almost all of the native species, marsupials and reptiles. So the exotic species can threaten native species that have no natural defenses against them. Okay, when an ecosystem evolves, you have predator and prey, predator and prey, predator and prey. They evolve together to keep each other's population in check. You introduce a new species, the whole that has and it the animals and the prey animals have no natural defenses against this new species that you've introduced. Then harvesting, hunting, and poaching, that's another thing that the humans have done for, let me see, one more click. Yep. All right. So excessive hunting can also lead to extinction. In the 1800s and 1900s, there were 2 billion passenger pigeons that were hunted to extinction. They said that the sky became almost black with the flocks of passenger pigeons that came across, and they were hunted to almost to extinction. There are not any left. So between the 1800 and 1900, they killed them all. There are no passenger pigeons left at all. There are also thousands of rare species worldwide that are harvested and sold for pets, for houseplants, wood, food, or herbal medicine. And so just harvesting plants and selling them at the markets. Poaching is the illegal harvesting of fish, game, or other species, especially like elephants for their ivory tusks, or rhinos. Poaching, or the gorillas. Poaching is a horrible, horrible illegal harvesting of fish, game, and other species. Poaching is just an awful thing. Then we've got pollution that is also causing the extinctions. There are pesticides, cleaning agents, drugs. When people are given medicine, not all of that medicine is digested in the system. A lot of it gets flushed down the toilet. And then the water becomes polluted with all of our medicines. All right, so drugs and other chemicals. This is not just bad people drugs. Of course, that does happen. This is not just bad drugs, but also medicines. Okay, and other chemicals that are being used by humans are making their way into food webs around the globe, and the long-term effects of these chemicals may not be clear for many, many years. Like I said, particularly like hormones, like when a woman gets older, they give her hormones. Those hormones get in the waterways, and they mess up the whole ecosystems. Or pain medicines, or diabetes medicines, or any of these medicines that when you take them, they don't all break down in your system. A lot of them gets flushed into the waterways. A bald eagle was endangered a long time ago. Their population has come back up, but it was a pesticide known as DDT. It would soften their eggs, and so when the mother eagle, no matter how careful she was being, she was crushing her eggs because the eggshells were so soft, and that was because of this DDT. Now, the DDT is a wonderful killer of mosquitoes. It killed mosquitoes, kills them really well. It's illegal because of the danger to the animals, because it wasn't just eagles, it was all of them. So it's illegal to use it in the United States, but it's still manufactured here, and they use it around the world. So we still make it here, and they use it elsewhere in the world that doesn't have the regulations. So it's still out there, and we make it and give it to people, even though it's illegal for us to use, which I think is not good business policies. Now, when we're talking about areas of critical biodiversity, when the whole point of, we said that the biggest problem with extinctions was us habitat destruction, right? Us breaking down habitats and fragmenting habitats. So there are special areas that are more delicate than others as far as biodiversity goes, as far as protecting the animals go. So an important feature in areas of the world that contain greater diversity of species is that they have a large portion of endemic species. Endemic, that's a new word for us. An endemic species is a species that is native to that particular place and found only there. Found only there. So endemic means it lives in this one place, and that's the only place in the whole world you will find this animal. Therefore, you must protect this place. You can't pave it over to make a mini mall. You can't pave it over to make you can't even tear it up to make a park. You need to protect this place for this animal because this animal only lives right there in that one little place. So the ecologists often use the number of endemic species of plants, remember I said plants are key, as an indicator of the overall biodiversity because the plants form the basis of the ecosystem. So the book here talks about endemic species. They're focusing on the plants, but there are animal endemic species as well. We can use the number of amphibians in an area, like frogs, to determine the health of an ecosystem. We use that as an indicator for the health of an ecosystem. So the plants and the amphibians are our main indicators over the health of an ecosystem. All right, and what was endemic species? An endemic species is one that lives only in one area, therefore you have to protect that area because that's the only place you'll find that animal. Okay. All right. Tropical rainforest is one of these places that need to be specially protected. Okay, over half of the world's species live in tropical rainforest. So think about all of the species on the whole planet, all the animals, plants, bugs, all of the species. Half of them live in rainforests, and rainforests only cover 7% of the Earth's surface. So over half of the organisms in the whole world live on 7% of land. Okay, that's why these rainforests have got to be protected. Many of the species have never been described. You remember we talked before about we've got to protect biodiversity because there's things we don't even know exist yet. So a lot of these things haven't been described. Unknown members of these species are disappearing as tropical forests are cleared for farming, cattle, and grazing. So we don't even know. See, unknown numbers are disappearing as we clear this for farming and cattle grazing. We don't even know that they exist, and we're killing them already. The tropical rainforests are also among the few places where native people maintain their traditional lifestyles. We know that there are very few people that still live wild. Very few. And most of them that still live wild are going to live there in the tropical rainforest. So we need to protect them as well. Now, coral reefs, remember we've got to consider water, okay? We almost always consider land animals, but we can't just focus there, okay? Coral reef, okay? Coral reefs here are very, very important. They provide millions of people with food and tourism revenue and coastal protection and sources of new chemicals, but they're poorly studied and not as well protected by laws as terrestrial areas. Terrestrial means land. So we know that the coral reefs are very important. They provide like a special buffer when the hurricanes come through the ocean onto land. Okay, the coral reefs at the edges of the oceans will slow down the hurricane winds and waves and stuff. They will slow it down to protect the land. So we use that. We also use it for tourism revenue because everybody who wants to go on vacation wants to go to a coral reef. And then we also use it for sources of new chemicals. Okay, but nearly 60% of the Earth's coral reefs are threatened by human activities. We do love to visit the reefs. So we visit them too often. All right, so 60% of them are threatened by human activities like pollution, development along the waterways, and overfishing. Okay, so similar threats affect the coastal ecosystems. So not just the coral reefs, but other coastal ecosystems like swamps and marshes and the shoreline and kelp beds. Remember we talked about kelp beds with the otters. All right, so not just the coral reef, but everywhere else that the land and the water mix. Okay, swamps, marshes, shores, kelp beds, all of these places where land and ocean meet are very, very delicate. Now, specifically in islands, those are some more places. These are all different places where the biodiversity is very unique and needs to be protected. So we talked about tropical rainforests needing to be protected. We talked about the coastal areas needing to be protected. And now we're going to talk about islands. Okay, when an island rises from the sea, You know, it comes up like volcanoes, like over time, the volcano will build and the volcano will build and volcano will build, and finally it breaks the surface of the ocean. So when an island rises from the sea, it's colonized by only a limited number of species that come in from the mainland. Okay, these colonizing species will then evolve into several new species because once they've come in from the mainland, they're usually stuck here, and they will wind up evolving into organisms that are unique to this little island. So what do we say if it only lives in one place? They are endemic to this island. So thus the islands are going to hold very distinct but limited set of species. All right, so many island species like this Hawaiian honeycreeper, okay, are endangered because of invasive exotic species. This is in Hawaii, okay, this honeycreeper. The honeycreeper has a special characteristic, a special relationship with one of the plants called a lobelia. He can only eat the lobelia, and the lobelia, it's a flower. The lobelia is only pollinated by the honeycreeper. Do you see this crazy curve on his beak? It's designed just for the lobelia flower. They have a very special relationship. Okay, it's called the coevolution. Okay, but the honeycreeper itself is endangered because of invasive and exotic species. Again, this is cats. People went to Hawaii. They brought their cats with them. The cats got loose. The cats are killing all the native species, and rats, because rats came in on the boats. All right, so the invasive exotic species on any island, okay, when the sailors come to the island, the rats get off the boat. Okay, so rats are a really big problem on any of these special categories. So the invasive exotic species are causing lots of the extinctions, and that's our fault. All right, now these biodiversity hotspots, do I have another? Yeah. Okay, so when we're talking about these special places that need to be protected, okay, we call them biodiversity hotspots, these special places that need to be protected. So the most threatened areas of high species in diversity of the earth have been labeled as diversity hotspots. So these are very threatened areas, okay, there's a lot of biodiversity here, and they're very threatened, okay. So that means that we need to protect them extra hard. Look at all these here. These are all bunches of islands in here. We told you islands were very delicate. And this is Australia, I told you. Okay, so these include mostly tropical rainforests, coastal areas, and islands. Okay, so the hotspot label, calling it a hotspot, was developed by an ecologist in the late 1980s. It identifies areas that have high number of endemic species, means they only live there, but they are also threatened by human activities. Okay, and most of these hotspots, at least 70% of, hang on, let me hide my face for a second, have lost at least 70% of their original natural vegetation. So remember, this book especially focuses on their plants. Okay, the plants that have gone, because they're the basis of the ecosystem. So a lot of these hotspots have lost 70% of their vegetation, their native vegetation. This is we have several questions on your notes about using this graph. Okay, so this is Mesoamerica. Okay, these are the jungles here, more jungles. Okay, this is the Amazon. All right, and they call this is the California Floristic Province. It means plants. Like I said, they are focused on the plants really hard. This is the forests in West Africa. This is Madagascar. You guys remember what's his name? King Louis? No, not King Louis. The stupid lemur, the goofy lemur. Okay, they come from Madagascar right here. This is all jungly areas. Okay, the islands we told you were very, very delicate. Here's Australia. Okay, this is near the coast, and New Zealand. This whole thing's an island. Okay, and this is the Caribbean. There's more islands here. So these are the hot spots that they have a lot of endemic species. Remember, endemic means they only live in that one place. So these areas have lots of endemic species, and they're being threatened by human activities. So they're called biodiversity hotspots because they need protected. Now let's think about some biodiversity in the United States. Okay, the U.S. Includes a wide variety of unique ecosystems. The Florida Everglades is one of our most special ecosystems. We also have, like I said, the California coastal region. We have Hawaii. we have the Midwestern prairies, and we have the Pacific Northwest. Remember learning about the Pacific Northwest? That's where the kelp beds are with the otters, but it's also where we have a temperate rainforest. Remember, not tropical rainforest, temperate rainforest that gets seasons. It's like one of the only places in the world. So that's Pacific Northwest, where we have a temperate rainforest. So these are all different places of the United States that are very, very special biodiversity places. The U.S. holds unusually high numbers of species of freshwater fish. Okay, like I said, we don't automatically think about fish, but in the U.S. we have more freshwater fish than a lot of other places. Okay, we also have mussels and snails and crayfish, more than other countries. And the diversity is also high among the groups of land plants like pine trees and sunflowers, which I wouldn't have thought. But we have more pine trees and more sunflowers than other places in the world. Now, again, this last here, this California floristic province, floristic means flowers. Okay, the California floristic province is a biodiversity hotspot, home to 3,000 native plant species. Okay, 3,000 different plants in this one area. Okay, that's why we have to protect it. Remember, plants are the basis of all the ecosystems. There are 3,000 native plants in this one area. Okay, of them, 2,000 are endemic, you won't find them anywhere else, and 500 are threatened and endangered. Okay, so this has a very large species of endemic plants, okay, and they are endangered. So this California floristic province is one of the places we have to take care of. The threats to the area include the use of the land for agriculture and housing, also destructive recreation, dam construction, overuse of the water, and mining. All of these things are things that we're doing to this area that are causing trouble, all of which come from the local human population growth. Because the human population is growing so much bigger, we're causing these other things to happen. Agriculture and housing, dams being used, overusing the water, destructive recreation, mining. That's all because the human population is growing. All right, so these are your comprehension check questions. This is the stuff we just talked about. You should have heard it in the lesson. You can flip back if you need to. What is an endangered species? We have that definition in there. What is a threatened species? What is poaching? All of these definitions are in there. What is an endemic species? I've said this one many times, so hopefully you got this one. What's a biodiversity hotspot? What is habitat fragmentation? I'll give you a hint. That's on the page with the bear. All right, and what is a mass extinction? All right, make sure that you understand all of these questions as we go through, and rewatch it if you need to. All right, I'll see you guys the next time. Bye, y'all.